Have you ever wondered if the most profound spiritual experience is happening right under your nose, or rather, through it, with every single breath you take? What if I told you that the simple act of breathing, something you do over 20,000 times a day without a thought, is actually the most direct bridge between your physical existence and the infinite cosmos? But before we begin, please hit the like button and let me know where in the world you're watching from today. It's always fascinating seeing who's joining us from around the world. Think about it for a moment. What is the first autonomous act we perform when entering this world? And what is the final release as we depart? Breath. It marks both the beginning and end of our physical journey, yet we've forgotten its sacred significance. Has this ever happened to you? You're going about your day, completely unaware of your breathing, until suddenly something, stress, or perhaps a moment of profound beauty, brings your attention back to this rhythmic dance of life-sustaining air. The ancient mystery schools guarded this knowledge zealously. They understood that breath is not merely a biological function, but a revelation, a forgotten path that connects the material to the eternal. Each inhalation and exhalation forms a sacred bridge between the personal and the divine, between the finite self and the infinite cosmos. Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, that remarkable 19th century mystic and founder of modern theosophy, understood this profound connection. As keeper of hidden knowledge and bridge between Eastern and Western esoteric traditions, Blavatsky recognized that breathwork wasn't simply information to be studied, it was invocation to be practiced, a living doorway to higher consciousness. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to discover might fundamentally transform how you experience the most basic aspect of your existence. We've been taught to see breathing as merely taking in oxygen and expelling carbon dioxide, a mechanical process necessary for survival. But what if it's infinitely more? What if each breath is actually a communion with the Logos, the cosmic intelligence and universal order that permeates all existence? The theosophical framework doesn't present these teachings as abstract philosophy, but as practical wisdom with direct application. Through conscious breathing, you can begin to dissolve the veil between worlds, accessing states of awareness typically hidden from ordinary perception. Have you noticed how your breathing changes with your emotional state? How it becomes shallow and anxious, deep when relaxed, suspended in moments of awe? This isn't coincidental. It's evidence of breath's intimate connection with consciousness itself. When you change your breath, you change your mind. When you master your breath, you begin to master the fluctuations of consciousness that keep you tethered to limited perception. What would happen if you approached each breath not as an unconscious reflex, but as a sacred act, a momentary participation in the eternal rhythm of creation and dissolution? The consequences of such a shift in awareness extend far beyond physical well-being into realms of expanded consciousness that few in our modern world have explored. As we journey deeper into these mysteries together, we'll uncover how the ancients encoded profound cosmic truths in seemingly simple breathing practices, and how these techniques serve not merely as health protocols, but as keys to unlocking dormant spiritual capacities. Now, I want to go even deeper into this profound revelation about the nature of breath. Ancient wisdom teaches us that breath itself is pure vibration, a resonant field connecting us directly to the Logos, that cosmic intelligence organizing all creation. Every word we speak is born of the Word, the primal sound that shaped existence. When you consciously breathe, you're not merely exchanging gases. You're engaging in direct communion with universal intelligence itself. If you've felt that resonance with these ancient breath teachings, don't let this be our final connection. By subscribing to this channel, you're not just clicking a button, you're joining a growing community of seekers, rediscovering these timeless wisdom traditions that have been carefully guarded for millennia. Each week, we unveil another layer of these profound breath mysteries, from practical techniques you can apply immediately to deeper philosophical insights that will transform how you experience consciousness itself. We bridge ancient knowledge with modern understanding, creating content you won't find anywhere else. Think of subscribing as taking a conscious breath of spiritual nourishment. Just as breath connects the visible and invisible aspects of your being, your subscription creates a living connection between us, ensuring these teachings continue flowing into your awareness exactly when you need them. The ancients taught that true transformation happens through consistent practice. By subscribing now, you're creating a sacred commitment to your own awakening journey. Join us as we explore the 7 breaths of the Logos, the science of conscious transition, and the hidden language that connects all existence. Subscribe now and breathe with us. This hidden truth explains why throughout history, the metaphysical significance of breath has been carefully concealed within the secret annals of mystery schools. The guardians of this wisdom recognized its transformative impact. No other bodily function provides such a direct key to understanding the fundamental relationship between microcosm and macrocosm, between your individual existence and the vast cosmic order. The journey of this revelation is both personal and universal. These teachings unlock precise connections between your respiratory patterns and cosmic principles that modern science has yet to fully comprehend. The pause between your breaths connects directly to the nature of temporality itself. The rhythm of your breathing mirrors the grand cosmic cycles called manvantaras in ancient texts. Even more remarkably, by consciously reversing your breathing patterns, you begin countering the very involutionary forces that originally separated humanity from its divine center. This mindset shift regarding something as fundamental as breathing represents one of the most profound yet overlooked aspects of spiritual development. Behind the scenes of every spiritual tradition, these breath mysteries form the practical foundation for higher consciousness. The decisions you make about how you breathe consciously or unconsciously ripple through your entire being. What's particularly fascinating is that these ancient breath teachings don't require you to adopt new beliefs or complicated rituals. The gateway to this experience already exists within your physical form. It's simply a matter of reclaiming knowledge that has always been your birthright. If you're resonating with these revelations about breath as the bridge to higher consciousness, write "I'm breathing consciously" in the comments below. The cosmological dimensions of breath extend far beyond our individual experience. The cosmological dimensions of breath extend far beyond our individual experience to the very moment we enter this world. There's a profound revelation in understanding that the soul's true entry into incarnation occurs not at conception as commonly believed, but at that precise moment of the first autonomous breath. Before this critical threshold, the spiritual entity exists in a liminal state, still connected to inner spheres through an intermediary link not fully severed. This perspective transforms our understanding of birth itself. That first gasp of air marks a decisive spiritual crossroads, a moment when the invisible becomes visible, when potential becomes manifest. It's a profound awakening. It mirrors every significant transformation in our lives, where we cross thresholds between different states of being. What's particularly illuminating is that the infant's first inhalation constitutes what ancient wisdom describes as a metaphysical pact. This isn't merely biological necessity, it's a cosmic agreement. By breathing independently for the first time, the newborn essentially signs their entry into what Eastern traditions call the domain of Mara, the realm of time and illusion, accepting the beautiful limitations that physical existence imposes upon infinite consciousness. Behind the scenes of this sacred transition lies another revelation about our journey into embodiment. Prior to this first breath, the soul is sustained through what's described as the umbilical cord's triple essence, structure, functioning simultaneously on physical, etheric, and causal levels. This multidimensional lifeline maintains unity with the maternal matrix in ways modern medicine has yet to fully comprehend. The umbilical connection represents far more than biological sustenance. In its deeper essence, it manifests as a thread of what ancient texts call the Sutratna, the soul thread linking multiple existences. This hidden truth reveals why birth feels simultaneously familiar and strange, why we arrive with innate knowledge alongside complete innocence. This understanding brings a profound mindset shift about our origins and the true nature of incarnation. The impact of recognizing these threshold moments extends into how we perceive our entire life journey, not as random biological happenstance, but as intentional spiritual continuity. If you've ever felt that inexplicable sense of having existed before your physical birth, type "I remember" in the comments below. The transition from unmanifest to manifest, from infinite to finite, carries profound implications for our understanding of consciousness itself. The transition from unmanifest to manifest, from infinite to finite, carries profound implications for our understanding of consciousness itself. Even the placenta, typically discarded after birth by modern medical practice, holds deeper significance in this ancient wisdom. Far from being merely biological waste, it's described as a relic of the first sphere, with its intricate branching structure physically mirroring the archetypal pattern of the tree of life itself. What's truly remarkable about the placenta's hidden nature is that its substance contains vibrational impressions of collective karma, those energetic patterns and tendencies shared between mother and child across generations. This blueprint of potential reveals why certain traits, tendencies, and even challenges seem to echo through family lines beyond what genetics alone can explain. The moment we take our first breath represents what ancient Gnostics called the katabasis, literally, a descent into the lower worlds. With that inaugural inhalation, the soul accepts the limitations of space and time. Our consciousness, which previously existed in a state of undifferentiated presence, becomes constrained within linear causality. This represents not a moral fall, but an ontological one, a necessary journey from unity into separation that makes our human experience possible. This perspective transforms our understanding of life's challenges. What we perceive as limitations are actually the necessary conditions for our unique journey of self-discovery. Behind the scenes of our struggles lies this profound purpose, the opportunity to remember our origins while fully embracing our embodiment. Perhaps most revolutionary is understanding that every single breath we take holds sacramental potential. Each inhalation represents our renewed acceptance of the physical world and all its conditions. Each exhalation serves as an unconscious attempt to return to unity. This rhythmic dance between acceptance and release mirrors the fundamental spiritual journey itself. The ancients taught that only those who transform breathing from unconscious reflex into conscious art, science, and mysticism can truly redeem the act of incarnation itself. This paradigm shift in perception doesn't require escaping the world, but rather engaging with it more deeply through each mindful breath. If you've ever experienced that profound sense of relief and release that comes with a deep, conscious exhalation, type "sacred breath" in the comments below. The breath's significance extends beyond individual experience to become the very signature of the soul itself. A breath's significance extends beyond individual experience to become the very signature of the soul itself. Ancient wisdom reveals that no two beings breathe exactly alike. Each person's respiratory pattern is as unique as a fingerprint, but reveals far more than physical identity. This breathing signature carries the imprint of your deepest essence, your spiritual DNA, if you will. In the hidden sanctuaries of occult schools, masters would recognize true disciples not by their words or even their actions, but by the quality of their breath. This revelation transforms our understanding of human connection. Beneath our conscious communication flows this undercurrent of truth that cannot be disguised. Your breathing pattern reveals your intensity of aspiration, your degree of internal harmony, and even your level of detachment from worldly concerns. The ancient Egyptians understood this profound dimension, describing an invisible breath body they called K in their hierograms. This subtle architecture surrounds and interpenetrates your physical form, constituting the archetypal mold upon which your incarnate life is built. This ethereal template doesn't breathe common air, but rather cosmic energies flowing through secret channels, a direct interface between your physical existence and the universal life force. This perspective offers a paradigm shift in how we understand our relationship with life energy itself. The ancient teachings make a crucial fourfold distinction that modern understanding has collapsed. There is air, the physical element composed of gases. There is breath, the movement connecting outer and inner worlds. There is prana, or pneuma, the vital force channeled through breath. And finally, there is life itself, the animating principle directing the entire system. The journey to this realization requires navigating between two common misconceptions. Modern science often reduces life to mere biochemistry, missing the profound intelligence organizing these processes. Meanwhile, some esoteric schools elevate prana to the status of divinity itself, when it's actually an intermediary force, powerful, but still in service to something greater. True wisdom lies in recognizing the distinct yet interconnected nature of these four aspects. If you've ever sensed there's something more to breathing than just oxygen exchange, type subtle body in the comments below. Behind this breath body lies an intricate system of channels through which vital energy flows. Behind this breath body lies an intricate system of channels through which vital energy flows. Ancient wisdom reveals that the subtle breath body possesses its own organs and pathways, called nadis, including the central Sushumna channel running along the spine and the twin currents of Ida and Pingala, representing the lunar and solar poles of our being. This invisible architecture expands and contracts according to energetic forces flowing through it, regulated not by physical mechanisms, but by the harmony among your thoughts, emotions, and soul's deepest intentions. This revelation transforms our understanding of mental health and emotional well-being. When thoughts are pure and intentions clear, these subtle channels dilate, allowing vital energy to flow freely. Conversely, when the mind is agitated or emotions turbulent, these pathways constrict, creating blockages that eventually manifest as physical or psychological imbalances. The mind-body connection runs deeper than modern science has yet fully acknowledged. The journey to perceiving these subtle dimensions was systematically developed in Tibet, where initiates underwent specialized training from childhood. Rather than focusing on physical breathing techniques, they learned to perceive the subtle breath and energetic oscillation passing through hidden energy centers, far more complex than the popularized chakra system. This profound training gradually shifted consciousness from physical air toward inner breath, until eventually the physical body became unnecessary as a reference point for the experience of life itself. What's particularly transformative about this ancient wisdom is its emphasis on purification as a prerequisite for advancement. The hidden teaching reveals that mastery of subtle breath requires internal cleansing through discipline, living including clarity of thought, truthfulness in speech, and purity of intention. Impure words, deceptive communication, hatred, or selfish desires actually poison both the astral and breath bodies, creating disharmony that prevents higher awareness. This explains why ancient mystery schools imposed years of silence and self-observation before teaching actual breathing techniques. The decision to maintain ethical purity wasn't merely moralistic, but pragmatically necessary. The subtle channels simply cannot conduct refined energies when contaminated by lower vibrations. If you've ever experienced that unmistakable sense of lightness and clarity after speaking absolute truth in a difficult situation, type inner alignment in the comments below. As we explore deeper into breath mysteries, we discover that the greatest secrets lie not in the breath itself, but in the spaces between breaths. As we explore deeper into breath mysteries, we discover that the greatest secrets lie not in the breath itself, but in the spaces between breaths. This revelation transforms our understanding of meditation practice. The secret key connecting visible and invisible reality exists in the pause between breaths, those imperceptible interstices where psychological time actually stops, opening a direct passage to the eternal present. What's particularly fascinating is that this pause isn't something you force through willpower, nor is it merely an automatic bodily function. The ancient texts describe it as supravoluntary, a spontaneous cessation that occurs when consciousness aligns naturally with its original source. It's not the body holding the breath, but rather the soul suspending its need for movement. During these precious moments of respiratory suspension, we gain our first glimpse of what esoteric traditions call the Akasha plane, that primordial etheric substance where all acts, thoughts, and resonances of the cosmos are permanently inscribed. Buddhist teachings describe these intervals as kasha, moments between perceptions when the mental stream halts completely and consciousness, freed from discursive thinking, can perceive reality without the usual veils of conceptualization. The transformational impact of this understanding goes beyond meditation technique to fundamentally reshape our relationship with time itself. In the breathless instant, we discover that time isn't an absolute reality, but a perceptual framework maintained by the rhythm of our attention. Ancient Vedic schools developed extraordinary practices to access these revelatory states. One of the most profound was the inverted hamsa practice, which went far beyond simply chanting Soham with the breath, as many contemporary teachings suggest. The authentic practice involved dissolving breath polarities completely until the duality between Soham, I am that, and Hamsa, that am I, collapsed into pure non-identity, a state beyond self-reference, where the primordial sound, Anahata Nada, could be perceived directly. If you've ever experienced that rare moment of perfect stillness between breaths where time seemed to stand still, type eternal now in the comments. This understanding of breath rhythms connects directly to the cosmic patterns of creation and dissolution. This understanding of breath rhythms connects directly to the cosmic patterns of creation and dissolution. Everything in existence, from subatomic particles to spinning galaxies, follows an unchanging law of rhythm, pulsating, oscillating, contracting, and expanding according to intelligently geometric patterns. This revelation transforms our perception of seemingly random events into recognition of profound cosmic order. What's particularly illuminating is that human breathing isn't just analogous to these universal patterns, it's a direct participation in them. When you breathe consciously, you're reproducing the respiration of what ancient texts call brahmacharya, the world egg, literally attuning your physical form to the breath of Brahman itself. This insight reveals why proper breathing creates such profound resonance throughout your entire being. You're synchronizing with the fundamental rhythm of existence. The ancient cosmological understanding goes even deeper. When Brahma exhales, the universe expands and manifestation occurs. Forms, beings, worlds, and laws emerge into existence. When Brahma inhales, everything contracts back to the unmanifested state, a withdrawal into the night of divine consciousness. This cosmic breathing cycle isn't merely symbolic, but represents the actual pulsation of existence itself. Your personal breath journey mirrors this grand pattern on a microcosmic scale. Behind the scenes of this profound teaching lies a mathematical precision that modern science is only beginning to rediscover. The ideal theurgic breathing pattern follows the golden ratio 1.618, the same divine proportion governing the structure of galaxies, seashells, flower petals, and even DNA. Perfect respiratory rhythm occurs when inhalation lasts 5 units, retention 8, exhalation 5, and the final pause 8, or any exact multiple of this proportion. This revelation explains why certain breathing patterns feel so naturally harmonious. They're mathematically aligned with the cosmos itself. When practiced with awareness, this golden ratio breathing activates what ancient texts call the inner fire, not cellular combustion, but divine intelligence burning within. The transformational impact goes beyond relaxation or health. Benefits to create a vibrational bridge with the causal plane of existence. If you've noticed how certain rhythms in nature seem to resonate with something deep inside you, type cosmic harmony in the comments. The cosmic breath operates through 7 distinct emanations, each corresponding to a level of consciousness ... The cosmic breath operates through 7 distinct emanations, each corresponding to a level of consciousness. This revelation transforms our understanding of spiritual development. Before any form or manifestation appeared, the unmanifested logos, that pure intelligent principle, projected 7 differentiated vibrations or breaths. Each of these breaths corresponds not only to a plane of consciousness, but also to a principle of being. a quality of divine fire, and most remarkably, to a specific breathing pattern that adepts must consciously reactivate to reintegrate with their origin. This hidden architecture reveals why spiritual practices across traditions show such striking similarities. Despite surface differences, they're accessing the same fundamental structure of reality through different cultural languages. The journey through these 7 breaths isn't merely philosophical, but represents practical stages of consciousness expansion. The first and most profound of these breaths connects to what ancient teachings call the Adi plane, the realm of primordial fire. Unlike our conventional understanding of breathing, this highest breath involves neither inhalation nor exhalation, but rather absolute suspension in what's described as the black light of non-being. This paradoxical state transcends ordinary perception and can only be accessed by those who have crossed the 3rd major initiation adepts, whose consciousness has evolved beyond the limitations of the causal body. The transformational insight here is that the most elevated state of consciousness, paradoxically, involves no movement at all, a revelation that challenges our achievement-oriented mindset about spiritual development. The highest attainment isn't doing more, but being more completely. From this primary emanation, the remaining 6 breaths correspond to progressively denser planes of existence. The 2nd breath connects to the Anupadaka plane through radial breathing, a spherical movement expanding from center to periphery. The 3rd links to the Atmic plane by the breathing of the column. The 4th cultivates breathing of union on the Buddhic plane. The 5th activates luminous breathing on the higher mental plane. The 6th employs breathing of waters on the higher astral plane. Finally, the 7th breath manifests as breathing of the incarnate word on the physical etheric plane. If you've ever sensed that different meditation practices seem to activate different aspects of your awareness, type 7 emanations in the comments. This 7-fold breathing pattern doesn't just describe states of consciousness, but reveals breath as our most fundamental language. This 7-fold breathing pattern doesn't just describe states of consciousness, but reveals breath as our most fundamental language. Before spoken words ever existed, before even verbal thought emerged, there was a pure form of communication that operated directly between consciousness and divine principle. This primordial language of breath allowed beings to communicate not through sounds, but through vibrational states. This revelation transforms our understanding of human connection. Even today, every breath you emit is an unspoken phrase carrying your intention, rhythm, and subtle form. Whether conscious of it or not, you're constantly communicating through the quality of your breathing, a form of continuous dialogue with both the visible and invisible dimensions of existence. The ancient Atlantean tradition preserved knowledge of what they called internal mental breath, the original language used by the first builders, the Manasaputras, before communication fragmented into separate forms and languages. This wasn't imaginary, but represented humanity's original capacity to transmit complete understanding through respiratory impulses perceived by others as immediate knowing rather than interpreted meaning. What's particularly fascinating is that this breath language gave birth to what we now know as seed mantras or bija aksharas, those powerful single-syllable sounds like Om that seem to bypass the thinking mind. These primal utterances don't encode concepts, but rather vibrational structures that directly shape consciousness itself. They're not invented words, but echoes of cosmic vibrations first perceived during states of profound absorption. Perhaps most revolutionary is understanding what the mystery traditions have long sought as the lost word. This isn't some forgotten verbal formula or magical incantation as commonly misunderstood. The authentic lost word is actually the lost capacity to emit sacred breath as an act of direct creation, the consecrated breath that creates forms on the etheric plane through pure will alone. The journey to recover this ability represents the restoration of humanity's original theurgic power, our capacity to participate consciously in creation itself. If you've ever experienced that rare moment when you feel your breath somehow communicating more than words ever could, type "breath speaks" in the comments. This understanding of breath as language reaches its apex in the ancient temples where breathing itself became a sacred architectural principle. This understanding of breath as language reaches its apex in the ancient temples where breathing itself became a sacred architectural principle. In Egypt, the hierophants revealed a profound initiation sequence. Soul had to learn to speak without voice before they could enter the temple's mysterious fourth veil. Within this inner sanctum, uttering words was considered sacrilege, as only the silent language of breath could adequately express the ineffable realities encountered there. What's particularly fascinating about this revelation is that these ancient temples weren't merely symbolic spaces, but functional acoustic instruments. Their very architecture was designed according to precise harmonic patterns that would generate specific resonances simply from the breathing of those dwelling within them. Imagine spaces so perfectly calibrated that your natural breath would create ripples of harmonic vibration throughout the structure. These temples were literally sacred breathers, transforming ordinary respiration into divine communion. This understanding illuminates what has become distorted in later religious traditions. What Christian doctrine describes as Pentecost, the descent of the Holy Spirit upon disciples as tongues of fire, represents a fragmented memory of a much more ancient practice, the direct transmission of inner fire through consecrated breath. This wasn't a supernatural miracle, but the culmination of an initiatory process involving direct energetic contact between a hierophant's divinized breath and the prepared subtle body of a disciple. A transformational power of this revelation is that true initiation has never been about intellectual knowledge or moral teaching, but about direct vibratory communion, one consciousness literally igniting another through the medium of consecrated breath. This principle of transmission predates all modern religions, appearing in various mystery traditions. The Mithraists called it the second insufflation, performing it in chambers specifically designed to suspend ordinary atmospheric conditions. Behind the scenes of this ancient practice was a precise science of consciousness transfer. Within these sacred spaces, the hierophant would project a single breath, not physical air, but a directed vibration, charged with superhuman intention onto the disciple's face, brow, or chest. This breath carried the fire of higher consciousness, creating an irreversible internal reconfiguration that modern psychology barely has language to describe. If you've ever felt that certain spaces seem to change the very quality of your breathing when you enter them, type sacred architecture in the comments. The precise conditions for this transformative breath transmission were carefully guarded secrets preserved in ancient lineages. The precise conditions for this transformative breath transmission were carefully guarded, secrets preserved in ancient lineages. For such a ceremony to succeed, the environment had to be completely free of dissonant resonances. Any conflicting energies would disrupt the delicate transfer of consciousness. The atmosphere needed to be charged with specific harmonic vibrations, whether through hidden sounds, geometric visualizations, or the mental projection of particular frequencies. Most critically, the disciple's body required careful preparation through what ancient texts called pranic fasting, not abstention from food, but from lower energetic influences, combined with prolonged periods of silence and rhythmic breathing practices. This preparatory phase wasn't merely symbolic, but created the necessary vibrational receptivity in the subtle body. During the actual ceremony, the hierophant would emit 3 distinct types of breath in precise sequence. First, the breath of purification, to dissolve discordant vibrations, then the breath of ignition, to activate the soul center, and finally, the breath of union to establish a permanent channel between the disciple's higher self and the focus of the Logos. This transformational process reveals why authentic initiation cannot be self-administered. It requires direct transmission from one who has already embodied the fire. The revolutionary insight behind these practices reveals that time itself is breath, not metaphorically, but technically. What we experience as the succession of moments, before and after, is actually sustained by continuous acts of perception called skandhas in esoteric psychology. Each time consciousness breathes, It updates portions of past, projects future possibilities, and maintains the illusion of separate identity. This revelation transforms our understanding of psychological time as something maintained through internal respiration rather than an external reality. To escape from this temporal prison, disciples were taught to master what ancient texts called hypergeometric breaths, respiratory patterns following complex Pythagorean proportions that replicate the hidden architecture of Platonic solids. These weren't arbitrary patterns, but precise vibrational keys. When executed properly, these special breathing cycles create moments of absolute suspension where consciousness slips beyond temporal limitations altogether, experiencing reality from outside the stream of time. If you've ever had that strange experience, where time seemed to completely stop during its own moment of profound realization, type timeless breathing in the comments. The ultimate purpose of these hypergeometric breaths was nothing less than breaking the karmic chain that binds consciousness to compulsive rebirth. The ultimate purpose of these hypergeometric breaths was nothing less than breaking the karmic chain that binds consciousness to compulsive rebirth. To accomplish this profound transformation, the adept must undertake what ancient teachings describe as inverting the entire direction of respiratory consciousness. In our ordinary state, we primarily inhale impressions from the external world, constantly drawing in sensations, desires, and stimuli, while exhaling our scattered spiritual energy that dissolves without redemptive purpose. This inverted pattern represents a complete paradigm shift in our relationship with life force. Instead of breathing from outside to inside, the adept learns to inhale from the higher soul and exhale toward matter. This isn't about imagining some heavenly breath, but rather shifting the actual point of attention to the causal plane where the essential self resides. When mastered, inhalation emerges spontaneously from that superspatial core, rather than frantically grasping at external stimuli for fulfillment. The geometric blueprint supporting this revolutionary practice is what ancient texts describe as the lemniscate pattern of redemption, a closed circuit of energy forming a figure eight centered precisely on the subtle heart. One lobe of this spiritual infinity symbol opens toward the causal plane, while the other projects toward the dense physical dimension. The crossing point at their intersection acts as an alchemical transmuter between hemispheres of being. What makes this practice so transformational is that it reverses the spiritual hemorrhage that defines ordinary human existence. While most people perpetually empty themselves of essence in pursuit of external satisfaction, those who master inverted breathing create a self-sustaining circuit of light. They draw from inner fullness and radiate that essence outward, baptizing matter with recovered consciousness rather than being drained by it. This practice reaches its ultimate consummation in what may seem an unlikely moment, the final breath at death. For the initiated, death represents not an ending, but the supreme consecration of all respiratory discipline. The last breath and its precise vibratory configuration determine the post-mortem trajectory of the monad, either launching consciousness along an ascending spiral toward higher dimensions, or allowing it to follow a closed helix that returns to conditions for rebirth through karmic inertia. If you've ever sensed that there must be a way to stop the endless cycle of seeking fulfillment outside yourself, type inverted breathing in the comments. This brings us to the precise technique of the breath seal, the most closely guarded secret of the ancient mystery schools. This brings us to the precise technique of the breath seal, the most closely guarded secret of the ancient mystery schools. Unlike ordinary death, where the last breath disperses chaotically into the environment, carrying consciousness with it into confusion, initiates were taught something radically different. They learned to concentrate their final breath precisely in the cardiac region, refine it into a single point of golden prana, and then launch it deliberately along the axis of the sutratma, thread of consciousness connecting all incarnations. This profound technique represents perhaps the ultimate mindfulness practice, maintaining complete awareness during the transition most people experience unconsciously. What makes this revelation so transformative is that it places the direction of your afterlife journey squarely within your control. The post-mortem trajectory isn't determined by external judgment, but by the quality and direction of your final breath. Behind the scenes of this practice lies an intricate science involving progressive breath subtlety. In the hours approaching transition, breathing becomes increasingly refined until the pause between inhalation and exhalation stretches naturally. At the crucial moment, specific mudras are activated, a slight contraction at the pelvic floor combined with the tongue gently pressed against the upper palate, completing an internal circuit that allows breath energy to circulate through the etheric sushumna channel. What's particularly remarkable about this hidden wisdom is that we needn't wait until death to benefit from it. The ancient teachings reveal that disciples can practice a form of miniature death each night before sleep. This rehearsal involves gently holding the last exhalation before sleep, consciously leading it to the heart center, and maintaining awareness in that gap before the automatic inhalation that follows. This nightly practice serves as a form of spiritual muscle memory, imprinting this pattern of conscious transition directly into the etheric tissues. When practiced consistently, this technique transforms not only how you'll eventually die, but how you live each day, bringing clarity, presence, and freedom from the fear that typically surrounds mortality. The revelation here is profound. The journey of conscious breathing doesn't end with the final breath, but extends as a bridge into whatever lies beyond the physical dimension. If you've ever experienced that moment of expanded awareness just as you're drifting into sleep, type conscious transition in the comments. The mastery of these breath techniques ultimately reveals that the boundary between life and death is much more permeable than we've been led to believe. The mastery of these breath techniques ultimately reveals that the boundary between life and death is much more permeable than we've been led to believe. What we've explored together today is just the beginning of a profound journey into consciousness that continues long after our physical form has served its purpose. If you've resonated with these ancient breath teachings, I invite you to join our community of seekers by subscribing to this channel. Each week, we explore another dimension of these hidden wisdom traditions that have been carefully preserved across millennia. What makes our approach unique is that we don't just discuss these principles intellectually, we offer practical guidance for integrating them into your daily experience. You know, it's fascinating to think that right now, as you're watching this video, you're breathing in a way that's completely unique to you, carrying your own energetic signature. If something in this exploration has awakened a recognition within you, I'd love to hear about it. Leave a comment with the words, "Breath Awakened," so I know you've journeyed with me to the end of this exploration. That like button is more than just a digital thumbs up. It's actually helping others discover these transformative teachings that have been hidden for so long. When you tap it, you're creating ripples of awareness that extend far beyond what you might imagine. I've prepared a complimentary video exploring the 7 energy centers and how they relate to these breath techniques we've discussed today. It's the perfect next step in your journey. Click right here and continue exploring these profound mysteries with me there. Until our breath paths cross again, remember every conscious breath is bringing you closer to remembering who you truly are.